The Victorian era was more than just long skirts, afternoon tea and poetry. It was a society where desire was monitored, repressed, and twisted into bizarre and creepy rules. Vibrators were used as drugs, see-through nightgowns were considered moral, and even love letters could land you in court. Tonight, let's open the door to the most bizarre sexual secrets of the Victorian era. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soothing background, and let's embark on this journey together tonight. If you ever thought that Victorian marriage was about romance, candlelight, and long walks through foggy gardens, you might want to pause before imagining what actually happened in the drawing rooms and medical offices of that era. Beneath the lace gloves and embroidered corsets was a level of sexual surveillance that makes modern dating look lawless in comparison. In Victorian Britain, virginity was not simply valued, it was inspected, certified, and in some cases, fabricated. A young woman's worth, her future, and her ability to marry often hinged on one invisible membrane. The idea that a bride must be a virgin was not new, but in Victorian society, that idea became an obsession wrapped in medical language, family reputation, and male entitlement. It wasn't just about honour anymore, it was about evidence. For some families, especially in the upper and middle classes, love letters and social standing were not enough. They wanted medical proof. And doctors, more than happy to comply, turned into unofficial inspectors of morality. A young girl could be asked, often without her informed consent, to undergo an examination to determine whether she was intact. These so-called virginity checks were usually arranged by the parents, not the fiancé. It was a transaction between families, cloaked in paternal concern but driven by social anxiety. The examination was clinical in name only. In practice, it was intrusive and humiliating. It's one thing to demand purity from your daughter, but quite another to outsource that demand to a man with a stethoscope and a moral superiority complex. The idea that virginity could be determined visually or physically was, even then, scientifically flimsy. But that did not matter. What mattered was the illusion of certainty. Families believed in the hymen the way they believed in inheritance, something to be guarded, confirmed, and passed on unbroken. In a society where a woman's sexual history was treated as a public ledger, any uncertainty became a threat. That threat had to be neutralized, and the tools were not only medical, but theatrical. Some young women, under enormous pressure, resorted to methods that were neither honest nor safe. Artificial hymens made of rubber or animal membrane began to circulate through certain discrete networks. These devices, sometimes called virginity restorers, were inserted before the wedding night and designed to produce a small amount of blood. The goal was simple. A stain on the bedsheet was worth more than a genuine history. Modern ideas of trust and communication look almost quaint when compared to the Victorian reliance on bodily stagecraft. These rubber implants were difficult to obtain and often painful to use, but they became a desperate lifeline for women who had lost their virginity outside of marriage, whether by choice or coercion. For them, deception was not about seduction. It was about survival. A single mark of suspicion could derail a wedding, ruin a family, or cast a woman into lifelong disgrace. The artificial hymen was a lie wrapped in latex, but it was also a shield. In a world obsessed with control, women learned to fake submission in order to keep what little freedom they had. The emphasis on bleeding during the wedding night turned a private moment into a public trial. The expectation was that the bedsheet would show proof of virginity, and that this proof could be examined by the husband or even, in rare cases, the family. Some households preserved the stained cloth as a sign of virtue fulfilled. Others whispered behind closed doors about whether no such stain appeared. For women, this created a paradoxical terror to be intimate while being watched, and to perform authenticity without room for error. What's particularly chilling is how few people questioned the logic. Newspapers published advice on how to preserve maidenhood. Religious leaders warned that even touching oneself could destroy purity. Doctors warned about riding horses or climbing stairs. The hymen was treated like a fragile relic, and its preservation became a symbol of an entire family's reputation. That such an anatomical feature could carry the weight of so many expectations is both absurd and cruel. Looking at it from today's perspective, we might laugh at the idea of a virginity certificate, but we still live in a world where women's bodies are expected to tell the truth, even when silence would be kinder. The language may have changed, but the pressure hasn't disappeared. Now it hides behind different terms, different rituals, and different judgments. Some women, of course, escaped these expectations, but many did not, especially in